Yahweh Shai told you himself in John the 44th chapter, okay, that salvation works for the Jews. Matter of fact, let's go to that real quick, just to prove a point. Because if you want to use that, if you want to use Rahab, then you need to explain this. Explain the Samaritan woman. Let's go there real quick. The woman of Samaria, right?
So imagine, instead of saying, okay, this is what this passage actually says, I'll deal with that. He says, no. I'm not going to accept what this clear passage says because there's a passage over here which I think says something different. And he's now talking about the Samaritan woman in John chapter 4.
There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Yahweh Shai said unto her, give me to drink. For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then said the woman of Samaria unto him, how is it that thou being a Jew askest drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Notice she said, for the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. And Yahweh Shai answered and said unto her, if thou knowest the gift of the Most High, and who it is that saith to thee, give me to drink, thou wouldest have asked of me, and he would have given thee living water. Okay, and by living water, he's talking about the word, pursuant to Ephesians 5:26, I think it is. Okay. Also John 7:38. Okay. He that believeth on me, as the scripture have said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. Verse 11, the woman said unto him, sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then hast thou that living water?
As well as the word.
Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well and drank thereof himself and his children and his cattle? Now, this woman said what? Greater than our father Jacob. Now, a Christian will read that passage and think that the Samaritan woman was an Israelite. She wasn't. She wasn't an Israelite. Because the scriptures clearly tells you.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, Salaki, not Ethiopian woman, but let me see.
Christian can say that. A Christian doesn't have to say that. It doesn't even matter to the point in this passage.
Let's see here. For what I remember, I think it was Samaria.
He's going, notice as well, he's gone here to get away from Rahab.
Not Samaritan, Salaki. Let me show y'all something real quick. Real quick. Yep, here it is right here. This is what I want to show y'all. Now, why did she say our forefather Jacob? This is why. You have to understand the history in order to know the mystery. It says Samaritans, the name given to the new and mixed inhabitants whom Esarhaddon in 677 BC, the king of Assyria, brought from Babylon and other places and settled in the cities of Samaria, instead of the original inhabitants whom Sargon had removed into captivity. So make a long story short, when you go into this history, okay, it started with King Salmanasar, who brought the heathens into the land. Now, my question would be, Yahweh Shai understood that this woman was a heathen. And when you go back, he simply tells her in verse 22, which let's jump down. We'll start at verse 21. It says, actually, we'll start at verse 20. It says, she said, our fathers worshiped in this mountain, and ye say that in Jerusalem is the place where men are to worship. Okay, because her forefathers go back to those heathens that came into the land. So she wasn't an Israelite. She was a heathen just like Rahab. Verse 21, Yahweh Shai said unto her, woman, believe me, the hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. Ye worship, ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Why didn't Yahweh Shai tell her that salvation is for the heathen and the Jews? Because it's not for the heathens.
What does he say in the next verse? She says her fathers worshipped in this mountain in Samaria, and you say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship, because that's where the temple was, that's where they worshipped, etc. Okay, Jesus says unto her, woman, believe me that the hour comes. What does he say? When ye shall neither in this mountain in Samaria nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. Notice what's happening. Jesus is saying, look, Jews worship in Jerusalem. That's the right place to worship because that's where the temple is, etc. That's where God said his name would be. She's saying, my fathers worshipped in this mountain in Samaria. You're saying worship in Jerusalem. What does Jesus say? The hour is coming. There's coming a time when you will not worship in this mountain in Samaria or worship in Jerusalem. Ye worship, you know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation of the Jews. There's no problem with this. What does it say? But the hour comes. He says it again. But the hour is coming. There's coming a time, and now this is the time when the true worshippers shall worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father seeks such to worship. God's spirit, and they that worship him must worship in spirit and truth. Like, this isn't an argument that's helping them. This is actually helping us. Because it's saying, look, these people are, you're carried away with Samaria. These lot are carried away with Jerusalem. But there's coming a time, now is the time, where it doesn't matter. It's not going to be about this mountain or this place in Jerusalem. It's going to be where we're done in spirit and truth. He's saying this is a Samaritan. But he thinks this is like some problem.
Why wasn't the woman in Samaria included? She didn't do anything wrong. Why wasn't she included? But Rahab was included because Rahab made a oath, a right to the to our forefathers.
Who says she wasn't included? I'm not going to read this passage, right? You can read this in your own time. Read through the passage. The whole point, which is powerful about this passage, is what does Jesus say to her earlier? And he says, look, if you knew the gift of God and who it was that says to you, give me to drink, you wouldn't have asked me to give you drink and I would have given you living water. So this is the point. This is why you have to pay attention when it comes down, when you get down the chapter and it talks about when she walks away. You have to notice the details here. Then the woman left her water pot. What did she come to get? She came to get water. What did she leave with? The living water. That's the whole point of this passage. And went away into the city and says to the men, come and see a man which told me all things ever I did is not this the Christ. So he's making this argument that, oh, she's not an Israelite, she's a Gentile, etc. I don't even care to make that argument. It's irrelevant. But she believes in Jesus as the Messiah. And she goes and evangelizes to the whole city and says, look, there's a guy who told me everything about my life. Come and see. Is it not the Messiah? Now, what does it say? Many of the Samaritans of that city believed on him for the saying of the woman, which testified. She went to testify to the city, and many Samaritans of that city believed. So then other people came, and many more believed because of his own word. So she testified, many believed in that city. Then many more believed when they stayed with Jesus and spent time with him. And they said, now we believe because we've heard. That's fine. Some people are going to believe because of someone else's testimony. Some people are going to believe because of a personal testimony. It doesn't change anything. But she came with a water pot to get water. She left without the water pot because the water pot was irrelevant at that point. The living water that Jesus had is what she left with. And she went to share that with the people of her city. So these Samaritans got the message. That's why Jesus went there. And he talks about how the harvest is ready. Look up, he's saying to his disciples. And he's talking about the Samaritans that are all running towards him to get the message. They went to get meat and to get food for Jesus while they were gone. He was there ministering to this woman and she believed. That's what the passage is saying.